I'm Mel,
And I'm Andrea.
and we've been asking ourselves, WTF? Where's the fun?
So welcome to our podcast for heart-led business leaders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs ready for more. More impact, more wealth, more joy, and more magic, all while having even more fun than ever before.
As co-founders of FunX, we believe that life and business is way more fulfilling when you're following the fun.
So we're flipping the script on success, giving you permission to create from a whole new paradigm where you can have a lasting impact while nurturing your well-being and having a freaking blast along the way.
So join us each week for engaging solo episodes
and real conversations with experts who are embodying this new paradigm of leadership, spiritual wealth, business growth, and of course, fun.
If you're ready to reignite your spark, make bold moves, and lead from a whole new energy,
Let's jump in and have some fun.
We just finished recording an episode with Staci Millard from Thrive Accounting, and she dropped some gold in this episode. So much around how to handle your finances, the mindset that goes behind the finances in a business.
Yeah, we love Staci. So Staci is one of the most fun people we know in finances. And that was the whole theme of this episode, fun in finances. So I can't wait for you to hear it. Let's have some fun.
Welcome to WTF. Where's the fun? I'm Mel.
And I'm Andrea.
And today we have a very special guest. We have Staci Millard from Thrive Accounting in here.
Woo-hoo! I am so excited for this. So Staci is a mom of two, a multi-passionate entrepreneur, investor, board member, and podcast host. After working with thousands of entrepreneurs, as well as her own 7-figure scale and exit, she believes in 3 non-negotiables, which I absolutely love. And I can attest that she walks the walk here. So the 3 non-negotiables are heart-led impact, making money, and having a great life because of your business, not in spite of it. So Staci's also our fractional CFO and one of the most fun humans in finance we know. So Staci, we're so excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Fun in finance. That just set the bar. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited to be here, ladies.
And this is fun because you're a huge reason why we actually have this podcast today, because you're like, when is the podcast happening?
You founded us.
Yeah, literally. I followed up with you. It's our
like
core
6
one of our
months.
core pieces of business. We value the follow.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, thank you.
And you nailed it. Okay. One thing that I want to start with, I think I could talk to you for literally eons, but let's talk about this whole theme about fun and finance. Because I think as business owners, we can, I think, naturally just suck the joy and the fun out of the financial piece.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is the part where I think you do embody it really well. And I think you align your business and all that you do to really hit on those 3 non-negotiables, but also with the fun piece. So how can we as business owners have more fun in our finances?
Mm-hmm. I think, first of all, it's a mindset thing. So to tee this up for listeners, I went to business school and I can attest to the fact I had no idea how to run a business. So I think that that's really important that we all just kind of start on even playing ground and understand we all have a lot to learn here. So the first thing is that I had no idea that how much stress I was adding to my plate when I didn't look at my own finances. Literally, we were doing books for all these people and I was not paying attention. And because sometimes I would look at my bank account and it wouldn't be where I had my goal for it to be. We were doing a lot of investing as we were growing early on. And then it would be oh, this is tighter. And then I would not pay attention. In those moments, I thought I was buying myself freedom, but I was actually it was always an underlying tone of stress. And when I started paying attention, I thought oh, my customers aren't going to be happy. I may be more intentional about invoicing them on time. There's all these things that came into play. Working with my team to be intentional about what we were delivering for somebody, right? Not giving them the Rolls Royce when they paid for the Toyota because we couldn't afford the inputs, right? So we got intentional about the finances, about how we were running the business with numbers. And actually it freed ourselves up so much. I could have had no idea how that was going to turn out, but it just allowed us to like reinvest in the team. I actually knew if I had money, so I could be like, hey, we're going to take an afternoon off. Like I have money to do these fun things. I was starting to build that into what I wanted. I like invested intentionally. I bought myself time off. And then our clients were actually even just happier because they knew what to expect from us, right? All the time. So one is it's the mindset. And we think that by avoiding finances that we're like, okay, well, we don't have to deal with the hard stuff, but we're actually just keeping ourselves stuck. So if we can be like, hey, there's actually so much freedom when we open the closet to like whatever monsters are hiding inside and empty it out, then we can start getting into like, okay, now how do we intentionally craft fun into the business, right?
Yeah.
So like we made it fun of just different ways of like, our group chat where we talk back and forth, like we named it something fun instead of it just being like, CFO, like here's doomsday clock ringing, right?
Our
Like,
accountant chat.
yeah. Oh, the accountant, right? So we choose to do that, but I think that it's actually just the intention you set behind it of like, do you want finances to be fun or not?
Yeah.
Because most of us are like, oh, the finances. And so we're choosing, because we're not choosing fun out of it, we're actually choosing for it to be hard. We're choosing for it to be a pain point. We're choosing for it to suck talking about it. Where like we want to see money as opportunity. We want to see money as, a way to give back, a way to connect with people. We want it to be so expansive. And when you choose that, you actually find ways for yourself. They're like, okay, how does this get to be, fun for me? Or how does this get to like bring positive energy to my world?
It's so true. I love how you look at things, and it's exactly why you're our CFO, because you can see a bigger picture of things. So I love that. My question for you is, we are nearing the end of the year, and a lot of people are already mentally into 2025. And so my question is, if you're sitting here right now and you're like, I haven't looked at my numbers, but I know I need to, right? I know I need to make this more fun. How then going into 2025, should I make aligned money goals? How do we do that?
Well, you can't set a goal if you don't measure it, right? The basics of a goal is that they have to be measurable. So if you are going to decide that you're not going to measure it, if you're not going to do your bookkeeping, if you're not going to get that information back on whether you're hitting those goals, then you might as well give up now. Like, don't even bother setting the goal because you're not going to attain it. Yeah. But, real talk is like, well, why bother? Because then you're just going to chalk it up to like, oh, here's another thing I didn't do. Right. So I think I want to be empowered by my money. I don't want it to be something that's holding me back any longer. And I don't think anybody who's had financial success did it through a mistake. Whether it's the like everyday millionaire next door who saved a little bit here and there and, at 65 all of a sudden is a millionaire, and that's fantastic, or somebody who's built a business to, like a Sunira Madani who's built a business to $1 billion in like 7 years. Like none of those happen without intention. So is this the year that you're going to decide to not be stuck? So if you're going to draw that line in the sand, then it needs to start with some information. Where am I at so that I can decide where I want to go next year and what's reasonable? I think there's a lot of narrative on the internet about like setting like, oh, I want XK, like 10K months or 20K months, or, like an 8-figure business is a new 7-figure. And there's like so flashy and it's like so excited to just like, yeah, I'm going to grow that 8-figure business this year, but we don't actually know what that means or where we're starting from, and then that roadmap to get there. So figure out where you're at, put the time in now. It like at the time we're recording this, it's the start of November. You actually have 2 more months before the end of the year. Like what a great way, like toss your stuff over to a bookkeeper or accountant to get you caught up, and then use that information to set some aligned goals of where you get to be next year by like end of Q1. Right?
Today's episode of WTF, Where's the Fun? Is sponsored by The Fun Experience, a curated mastermind for established business owners, entrepreneurs, and CEOs ready for more. More magic, more joy, more wealth, and more fun than ever before. So if you're ready for a peer-to-peer mastermind that's helping you to embody more leadership, more impact, and make bold moves, The fun experience is where it's at.
I love that. I think that's, for me, like we're on the same page, like, intention. Because if you're not setting the intention, you're right. It's like we can go in with, my business and my finances, but we can also go in with, I get to have more impact, I get to help more people. Like it really is the intention that you go in. And I remember and she's actually one of our fun experience mastermind. And she's like, and most of them are multiple 6, 7 figures, which it's not mainly about the money. It's more about they're seasoned entrepreneurs. And she's like, I'm not hitting 6 figures. And I'm like, there is no way you're not hitting 6 figures in your business right now. So she's like, okay, let me go figure it out and she has somebody doing her accounting. And then she's like, okay, never mind. I'm like multiple 6 figures. And I'm like, I knew that. You need to know that.
But it's like exactly what you said. Like she's doing the work, but she's not paying attention to what the numbers are, what's actually happening.
But it was really cool. And why I share this is you could see the shift in her being like, wow, I actually am way further ahead than I thought I was. And I think a lot of us, ourselves included, I think it's easy to be like, I'm not where I want to be because maybe I did set a big audacious goal. But yet, if you actually look at it, it's actually a great way to build off the momentum as to where you are and what you've actually done, which is probably even better than you think.
Well, and what I'm hearing from what you're saying is there's almost like a tone of like, oh, I'm not at 6 figures yet, and a discouragement. But when she's discouraged and trying to figure that out, she's bringing that to everything that she does.
Yes.
Right? Sort of that disappointment.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, oh, I'm not there yet. Oh, I don't know how to get there. Oh, I'm trying and it's not working. So without looking at it, at the numbers, you can't even use them to propel you forward. And I would say that like now that she knows, it's like, okay, well, what can I do with this? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if she wasn't there, let's say she wasn't, you could actually then be like, okay, so why not? Right? Like, are we overspending in some areas? Is your revenue short? And then it's like, okay, that's where you need to focus. Okay, so what are 3 tangible steps now? Right? So it's like, it's the empowerment behind like, what are you going to do in a short time frame and see if it works? And if not, you're going to try something else. Right? Like that. I hear a lot about how creative entrepreneurs are. And like, I never considered myself creative until I heard this recently. I was like, oh yeah, I am pretty creative. Like, that's the fun part about it, of being like, okay, is this going to work? Like, new idea. Like, let's try this. And so you can't bring that creativity in unless you're putting the 2 points on the map of like, here's where I am, here's where I want to go. Like now I get to be creative in how I do that.
Yeah.
And I love this. I think you shared this in one of your podcast episodes on your podcast. It was about like actually looking at the numbers and changing your whole mindset and perspective. But it's so true. Most of us look at it like pass and fail. Here are my numbers. Now I failed. Versus how can we come at it from almost like, and I think you're really good at this, it's almost like a curiosity, experimenting, actually looking at them. But then there is this creativity being like, hey, what do we just need to do in order to get you to where you want to go?
Yeah.
Or even what I think another part of it is, and this is why the co-creation is fun, because then you have a new perspective to be like, did you even think of this? Like, this is a whole new, I don't know, could be revenue stream, could be, I think that's how we got to the podcast. It was like, it's something that genuinely brings us joy. And you're like, why are you not doing your podcast?
And so I think this is an area where people get lost because they think like, okay, numbers are so black and white and they're strategic, which I think numbers are pretty gray. Like if we talk accounting, there's so much gray area. But I think that they think it's so strategic that you almost like lose the heart of business. And this is why it's such a core impact for me is like, we chose the podcast for you because of how you show up, the things that you love to do, how your community loves to experience you. It was just like such a great way to highlight you as individuals. Like it was so aligned and like heart led, and it has a positive impact on the business. So it was kind of like coupled with that, where it was also like, okay, and then how do we do it in a way that positively, like financially impacts the business, right? Like with your time and your money and like how you're investing it, what's going to get a great return. So we were actually able to like bring all of those aspects in. It's not just like, oh, the dollars and cents, the ones and twos tell me I'm supposed to like do this today, right? Where you get to bring in like your personality and
Yeah.
all that creativity, and then also be profitable doing it.
And I think that's the whole point. Like that's our whole message really it's like, what's the point of doing all this if you're not having fun? So it has to be aligned. It has to be something that if you're committed to something, it has to be something that at least is joyful and is fun for you. Whatever that means for you. It might mean something like numbers. Like that's why you're our CFO and we're not your CFO.
I feel like we need to institute like costumes only meetings from now on or something too, because it was so much fun when we had a call the other day with like costumes on. But I think it can be like talking about finances can be as fun as you want. I heard there's a guy, he has this book, it's called The Alter Ego Effect, and it talks about just like kind of triggers and like how you show up. And I think there could be so much empowerment for people and just like, how do you want to feel about your money, right? And then find something. So if you want to feel smart, like some people wear glasses, but like find something, like maybe you buy a really nice pair of high heel shoes and you're just like, from now on, I'm going to do my finances in these like Louboutins and sweatpants, maybe, I don't know. But it's like, this is how I want to feel about my money. And you bring that in where it's like, maybe it's your call with your accountant. I don't know. You wear something like your Tiffany bracelet that day or whatever it is, where you're like, okay, I feel good. I feel empowered. I feel like I'm investing my money in the right places. I'm making smart decisions, like all those wonderful affirmations. And you've got something that kind of anchors you into that feeling when you're talking finances.
I love that. It made me think of two things. One time, this was years ago, and we had our financial lady at the time. She came for like an in-person meeting, and it was like May, I don't know, like a Wednesday. So Mel and I are like, wouldn't it be fun if we wore our ketchup and mustard during this outfit? So this lady comes and she does this whole presentation with us for like 2 hours, and like we're straight faced the whole time with our ketchup and mustard.
Like, you're idiots.
But it was fun, and it was something that we got to do together, and we got to be playful. But it also reminds me of when we moved here. Like, so we moved to the lake. It was a fairly big transition, almost in, I don't want to say identity, but maybe an identity from where we lived to where we are. And what we realized is we needed to play in that energy. So we got Muskoka chairs. We would have bonfires. We bought kayaks, and then we would go kayaking like down the street. We basically like embodied that we were already in Muskoka. We would have like a tea and a cozy thing by the fire. Like we did all that. And then it actually accelerated us getting this house. And I think that's part of the process in the finances is sometimes it can be a big jump from where we are to where we want to be. And there's almost, like having things to anchor us in or almost start to embody the finances that we want to have.
Yeah. And you know what? So I think it's great to have big dreams. Like I think about my big dreams and like I would love to have generational wealth where like my kids could just live off of investments, because to me that means like a lot of safety and security. I think there's other pieces behind it about how much that means that they're able to give back. Like I also run like a nonprofit where it's like maybe envision them if they could live off of the interest, then they could run this, and have massive impact. So I've got those big dreams. But if I just focus on them too much, I find that I get very caught up in like how far I am from where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I don't live well there. And so I think there's a lot of message about like dream big. And I think those are good as kind of like an in the distance, like anchoring point of like, okay, that's where I want to go. But in the day to day, I personally focus a lot more on like, what are the next 3 to 4 steps? Like, where do I think that's going to go? And there's so much beauty in those steps because we always like learn something new. Like maybe our kids are like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do something like, there's just so many variables. So it's like you live in that and then you get to adjust and course correct along the way. So those big dreams, like that's a fun thing to do because it's got a lot of expansive energy, but it's hard to connect to on a daily basis because you're just like, I'm so far from there. Like, what would I even do today? For me, it kind of shuts me down.
Same. I'm kind of the same. I'm a big dreamer, but at the same time, I think a lot of people actually get, myself included, that's where you get paralyzed because it's like, this is so big.
Yeah.
we need to break it down into almost like the teeniest tiny baby steps. So I love that you're like, let's focus on like, what are the next couple things that I can focus on today
Yes.
to move that forward.
Well, and it's like, I think it's so funny. It's like, okay, so you're a solo service provider and you have a great cash flowing business, like you're making a couple $100,000 a year. And then you're like, I want to be at 10 million. Like the business isn't even recognizable, right? At 10 million, it's like you've got 20 staff. Like, how did you pick up all those clients? Like now you got a whole marketing team. Like you're just like, it's not even fathomable. So then you're like, well, why waste your time there? It's like, what's going to get me 2 to 3 steps closer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to focus on like the next 2 to 3 team members. How do I get to, a couple more people above and beyond me? And there's so many micro steps in that it's like you actually can spend some time there. Like this is done sooner than today, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, well, the way we kind of look at it is like, how can you master where you're at?
Yeah.
To the point where it's like, it is almost like when you have your coffee, you're savoring it opposed to I'm just drinking my coffee so I can move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But kind of like with the steps, it's like, yeah, how can you enjoy it? Which I then think puts you in a different energy, which then makes you become more magnetic to your dream clients, which then results to even more money.
So you two have said this about like the fact that people put fun off to when they achieve something, but that goalpost constantly moves. And I also had read this quote, I think it was about parenting, where it's like the magic actually happens in between breaths or in between heartbeats, where it's like that's where the real joy in life is. And I've just taken to that message so often of like, you have to enjoy the journey. Like, how do we enjoy the journey? And literally, like, your message couldn't be more well suited. It's just like, how do you infuse fun in it?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how you're infusing fun right now into your journey.
I got a puppy. That's as much fun as I can handle.
And I remember not too long ago, Staci, that you did tag us in something, and you said, after talking with these two, I tried to infuse more fun, and I went snowboarding and broke my wrist.
Oh yeah, that too.
So now, since you're recovered, how are you infusing fun?
I just love this. So I think that there's a lot of ways. Like one, I'm getting more intentional about planning vacations. My husband and I, the last couple of years, have just been like, oh, we have we have everything we need at home. We don't really need to go anywhere. And I noticed that it didn't have the same energy to it. So we're getting back to like planning vacations. And just intentional about the time off, right? Like more dance parties with the kids. I said the puppy, like I really do like, you can have a choice. The other day, he ripped my Kleenex box off the shelf and he's like tearing all these tissues out of it. And I'm in the middle of talking taxes to somebody. And it's like, you can choose to see every one of those moments as, inconvenience or a setback or whatever you want it to be. Or you can choose to just like find the joy in the fact that this little guy's like loving on Kleenex. Like, and so it is just some of it is a mindset shift. And then some of it is those more tangible actions of, like, okay, how do we just show up for, like, I'm feeling low. Like, let's do something energetic. Let's have a dance party, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
I love that. It's so true. I don't know. Our dogs love it. It must be a puppy thing, but ours still does it. Like she'll like, let's find the toilet paper. It's like, let's not.
Yeah. So
I mean, a puppy
yours might not grow out of that stage. Ours did not.
But it's so true. That's part of I think that's where, for so many different reasons, you're embodying this, but like so different than anyone else we've ever worked with in this role. And I think what you do, and I don't know if you know this, but we really do give people permission. And I think you give people permission to dream bigger without dreaming like unrealistically, like heart-centered dream.
Yeah.
But also, it is empowering. It's like, it's fun to be in your energy. So how can people learn more about what you do and how you help others?
Yeah. Thanks for mirroring that back to me. I think like that's something that I really have a core value on of like being able to see the possibility and then also still being grounded enough to know like if you just dream too much without putting some tangible plans, it's like it's kind of
It's a fantasy
it's not
then.
worth it. Yeah. And so I like to couple it with like, okay, so how do we get there? But yes, so thank you for that. Thrive Accounting is the name of the accounting firm. We offer bookkeeping, tax, and then CFO services, like bringing that information that everybody craves, that partnership, the true partnership from an accountant. So we're on Instagram and like all the platforms as Thrive Accounting. And then I am Staci Millard. I also have Small Business School podcast, which you guys have been on an episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm on all the platforms as Staci Millard doing all the things.
You are doing all the things. I would say I do have one more question. It's what are you most excited about right now in life and business?
Guys, I'm going to Disney in a month. I'm so
You
excited.
are? That is
Yeah.
exciting.
We're taking the kids. They're 7 and 9, and I am so excited. My husband's never been, and I'm just like, I think that there's going to be so much magic in that.
Yeah.
So that's a personal thing. In business, I am very excited for how many people, like, we're onboarding new team members, we're impacting a lot of businesses, and I'm very fueled by that right now, where it's like hearing those like confirmations from people of like, wow, this is like very informative. Like, now I know where to go next in my business. That's really fueling me, and it's fueling a lot of things we do. We just finished the Small Business Summit, where it's like we got to then take all the feedback we got from clients and like what they need to learn. Is like we held a huge summit with all these speakers of like, okay, we get to grow, and like that energy of growing businesses, even when they're like, hey, it's mine, but also other people's, is just like, yeah, I don't know. It's infectious for me.
Well, I can tell you, like, ever since you become our CFO, like, you've helped us in a way that I didn't even think was possible. Like, I'm like, oh, she's an accountant, like, yada, she uses numbers, we'll talk taxes. No, you actually sit down and you strategize with us of the bigger picture and how to get there. And I'm forever grateful for that, because we've never worked with a CFO before, and it can make the world of the difference in your business. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're so welcome. I love it.
I know part of me is like, I feel like we need another meeting now that we're preparing to get to 2025.
I know.
What is one thing if our listeners who, you know, they're already doing great. They just want more joy, more wealth, more fulfillment, more fun in their life and their business. And really, if we can infuse one, could be a tangible takeaway, could be mindset shift. If you could just leave them with one thing for how they can have even more fun in their finances, what would it be?
It's just the intention. The only thing standing in your way of finances being fun is your mindset around it.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you decide it's going to be something different, it will absolutely fall into place.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that. I feel like you're calling me out on that right now. So I feel like I'm going to set that
Staring at you through the screen.
What is your intention? Yeah.
Well, it can be tough, right? Like, I know clients who are making pivots. I know clients who let their entire client base go. I know clients in industries that are having massive shifts. And sometimes in business, it can feel like everything's going great. And then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, it's like, we got to pay more attention. And that shift kind of catches us off guard, but it's like coming back to what we know of like, hold on, I want this to be fun. So how do I make this fun again? And it doesn't, that fun doesn't have to mean expensive. It doesn't have to mean like the yacht trip, although it can, but like, it doesn't have to be expensive. So how do you change your mindset on making it fun?
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
So good. Thank you, Staci. We're so grateful for you for literally all that you do for us, but also everything that you do, you just bring so much value. So we're super grateful, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for listening to WTF. Where's the fun?
We're Andrea and Mel, and we're so excited to be on this journey with you to see how fun it can get.
If today's episode brought a little bit more fun into your world, be sure to subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review.
And remember, life and business is so much better when you're following the fun. So let's have some fun.